Welcome, everybody, and I appreciate you guys all being here tonight. As some of you guys know, and maybe not all of you, but this is the 2026 Virtual Safety Seminar Series. Every year since COVID days, back in 2020, we've kind of started doing these virtually. We kind of had no option back then, and they worked out really well. So we just decided that we wanted to continue that. I'm very pleased tonight. This meeting is for coaches and instructors. And although even if you're not a coach and you're thinking about being a coach, or, you're a coach currently and thinking about being an instructor in one way or another, the cool thing is I do have Dustin Renz, who is the chair for the CWC for CSPA. He's actually going to be the one presenting today. Keeps me off the hook and you guys not having to listen to me for hours on end. And so throughout the meeting, and I'm just going to stop sharing this here, but throughout the meeting, I know that Dustin definitely has a presentation, but it's very interactive. I'll be moderating the call. I do have the chat function open. So if you have a question, comment, or anything like that, I just ask that you keep it professional on there because this is recorded, including the notes. You can actually just ask it in there and I can actually assist with Dustin getting those questions. There's also the raise hand function, as you guys hopefully know in the Zoom call, that if you do have a question, just raise your hand and then I will get to them in order as I can throughout the presentation. So to respect everyone's time tonight, again, I appreciate you all being here. And on behalf of myself and Gord, who's also on the call, for those of you who don't know, we do own Skydive Vancouver Island. I am going to pass the floor over to Dustin Renz, the chair of the CWC, to get this party started.
Let me just make sure I have my screens right here. All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming out. This is the Coach Instructor Safety Seminar. I think pretty much everyone that's on this call. I'm not sure of a couple names, but this is also not just geared towards you guys, but anybody who might be watching, this afterwards because it's recorded. Let me just share my screen here. All right, so as Allison said, I'm not one to read off a script. It's pretty informal. I have just as much to learn from you guys as you do from me, and that's something I recognize more and more in my position as the chair of the CWC. So don't let me just do all the lecturing. If you have some points, please chime in, raise your hand, or comment, or whatever way you want to chime in. Yeah, so super informal. We're going to cover some different topics that, in my view, are important and have going to come up throughout the year. I'm not going to comment on any specific incidents or anything, but there are obviously lessons learned from various incidents that occurred within the last year as it pertains to coaches and instructors. The big takeaway is that coaching and skydiving, instructing should be treated as a profession, not as a bunch of hillbillies doing whatever. It's something that I take very seriously, and I know when I was coming through learning to skydive that I would gravitate towards the people who acted professionally and were within that role. So don't underestimate the amount of confidence that you'll build in people just by presenting yourself professionally. So in the words of Uncle Ben, with great power comes great responsibility. I know it's a fun sport and all, but truly, your actions as a coach and instructor really reinforces the safety culture and just how safe our students and novices are as they proceed through the system. So we'll talk a bit about risk management, some human factors, currency, equipment items, leadership. We'll touch base on the rules and policies with CSPA, and I'll also provide you a bit of an update with some of the changes that happened over the winter with regards to policies and forms and that sort of thing. And then we'll have a little chit chat at the end. Why this matters? So I'm sure it goes without saying, you're all experienced enough to know that most skydiving incidents are entirely preventable. Um, Skydiving is, I always say the safest way to skydive is never to get in the plane in the first place, but we do have to draw the line somewhere. We've all heard the phrase, everything's a chain reaction. There's multiple links in the chain and that sort of thing. So that your role as a coach and instructor is to reduce those links to minimize the risk where possible. Uh, your decisions as an instructor influences the outcome more than the student actions. Remember, you're the example. They're going to do what you tell them to. If you're not treating something seriously in like a first jump course or whatnot, then it's highly likely that they're not going to treat it seriously either. Um, Small decisions compound. So, like I already said, every incident that we see is never just one thing that happens in free fall that resulted in a bad or dangerous situation. It's always several little things that might seem like a good decision at the beginning, but adds up to not being a good thing. Um, and yeah, it's important. You guys are the face of CSPA when you're dealing with with your novices and students. So what you do reflects the future of skydiving and the future of the safety culture. Reality of risk. So, like I said, accidents are almost never from a single failure. Um, it's always multiple things. What we kind of see is a normalization of not following the rules. So that kind of, you you start chipping away at little bits and pieces of the rules that you don't want to follow, and that becomes the new normal. The people that you're teaching or coaching sees that as the normal. They come up through, and then they start deviating a little bit, and eventually we have um, this kind of cycle of things getting worse or trajectory of things, becoming more of a cowboy type of operation. So the rules are there for a reason. If you don't like them, contact the CSPA because we'll be happy to work with you on it potentially. Maybe there's reasons for it that you don't understand, or maybe it's time to review a room. Uh, but the rules are there for a reason, and they protect you also, the coach and instructor. We've all heard this term before, comfort breeds complacency. The more comfortable you are in a situation, the more complacent you tend to be. And the same goes for the students, the same goes for the coach or instructor as well. Um, yeah, we've all heard like I forget what it's called, the scale that the 100 jump person who thinks they're sky god, and then the more experience you get, the more you realize that you don't know that much. Uh, so it's important to kind of just recognize where you are in that. You are the gatekeepers of enabling risk. So ultimately, people will defer to you. If you say, "Ah, that seems like a good idea," they're going to, well, rely on you as a coach and instructor. There's days where I don't love the winds or the wind's doing all kinds of weird stuff and I decide to stay on the ground. And there's, less experienced people coming through. And I remember distinctly one day, like, why are you're not jumping? I'm like, no, I don't like the winds. And then the novice is kind of like, oh, had a second guess, So don't underestimate just being present and being the face of that of how much risk you can enable or to the opposite disable. I won't beat this to smithereens, but there's obviously a lot of human factors that go into safety management. And it's not just for you, it's for your students or novices as well. So it's just as equal for you to recognize for yourself as it is for you to recognize in others. Oh, Gerardo's here. There we go. So fatigue. Uh, obviously, the more tired you are, the less aware you are. Um, this is one of those chains that really adds up. You're you might not be at the top of your game one day, plus you're tired, plus something else. This is just one of those chain events that's totally preventable. Uh, I've done army exercises of staying awake for like 3 or 4 days, and I can tell you your reaction to situations changes quite a bit after you're tired for a long period of time. So uh, in a sport where it relies on quick reaction, that's not really the time to be tired. Time pressures, this one can be tricky because we all know drop zone have to keep things moving and whatnot, but remember, it's on you to manage time pressures. If you're unable to do something safely within your time frame given, then it's on you to bring that up, and you have a responsibility and a role to play in that as well. I already talked about that. Overconfidence. So I've heard this a few times. They go, "Oh, I've seen worse." And that is somehow perceived as an acceptable standard to some coaches and instructors that they're not the worst that they've seen. Uh, we should be shooting a little higher, I think. External pressures. So, I guess time pressure is kind of an external pressure. Pressures from home or work or that sort of thing. They're all relevant factors that affect the performance. And awareness under stress. If you're stressed out, you're not going to be as aware. They're not going to be as aware if they're stressed out, that sort of thing. So let's talk currency. Um, I'm kind of curious if anybody wants to raise their hand. How many of you guys actually do any form of currency jump? And I don't mean just going and doing a hop and pop and calling yourself current, but going out and practicing your coach to avoidance techniques or PFF, spin stops or that sort of thing. Out of curiosity, a show of hands, if you want to raise your hand, how many people actually do that sort of thing? We got Mike. We got one keener here. Derek, excellent. Yeah, I'll be honest. So we got two, which kind of proves my point. But yeah, it's something that gets totally neglected, right? Currency is more than just recent jumping experience. It's about dealing with unusual situations, being practiced in exactly what you're doing. Case in point, being theft jumps. Uh, Many of the incidents that we see uh, result from not being up to speed on emergency procedures and unusual situations. So I'm guilty of it too. I've always tried to, squeeze in a practice jump, like in accordance with my respective rating, but time constraints, it doesn't always happen. But you know, and you can go online and read all the SMS reports, the safety management system, like all the AIM reports get published online, and you can kind of see where everything's at. Uh, about, currency and jump numbers and that sort of thing. So currency is a huge thing that gets underappreciated a lot, I think. And causes it causes injuries and it causes fatalities. So it's super easy to do and it just makes you a better coach and instructor. So don't neglect that. Um, I could ask the same question. I'll probably get the two same hands, but reviewing unusual situations, like even if it's just reviewing it in your book, there's probably not that many people that do that. Some of this practice could be as simple as dirt diving unusual situations. That's certainly better than not doing any unusual situation practice. And currency doesn't mean listen to people talk. So what I mean by that is just it's great that everybody's here and listen to me ramble on, but truly, um, you have to do more than that, right? We get in this habit since things have turned virtual that okay, we watched this thing, so all of a sudden we're current. But that's not what it is. You need to get on the ground and do the things and do the practice because it can save it can save your life potentially. Um, what is this? Oh yeah, we'll talk a little bit about this later, but there is a new resource. Actually, I'll show you. There's a CSPA resources page, safety and educational resources. Hmm, education, which is great. It's kind of a consolidated list for everybody to review important information. Recently, we've added a resources for coaches and instructors. There's some information there, and there's also unusual situations that the CWC has now published. These are suggested scenarios that you can work with for all the jump ratings that exist. So you can see they're quite broad. But it gives you something to work off of in doing those currency or dirt dives or practice jumps. And if, by the way, anybody wants to see, because I like having a quick place to click all in one. If there's other information or stuff that you think belongs in there, make sure you bring it up and we'll definitely have it added if need be. Equipment checks. So equipment checks are not optional. It's actually in the technical recommendations, I believe, that every jumper uh, shall receive a equipment check. So acting in a instructor role, it's easy to neglect your own equipment, I suppose. Um, because you're just so focused on your novice or your student that you neglect your own. But I'm confident that equipment checks, doing proper equipment checks, um, would save lives. And I can confidently say that. Don't just do your equipment check by zooming through real quick and expecting a good outcome. I always tell people to look for the problem that you know is there and you got to find it and not to just expect a good outcome. Something that I've worked into my routine as an instructor is to intentionally put funky equipment thing in for my novices to check or my students to check. Especially at the checkout jump levels and that sort of thing. And I even do it in my Coach One courses when I run those, and actually all my coach instructor courses that I run. And you'd be surprised at how many people miss very obvious things. I pretty much only ever misroute my chest strap or undo my RSL, and it will blow your mind how many people miss something as simple as that. So, really get in the habit of doing a detailed equipment check and reinforcing that for the people that you're teaching and instructing. AAD checks. So it goes without saying that part of your equipment check is an AAD check. And um, it's easy to say, oh, have you turned your AAD on? Yep. Like how many people actually just say that because it's part of their routine to turn their AAD on? I know I've done it and I've seen it happen many times, but it's really worth having somebody like we have some of our student rigs have the AED facing the back, or I should say our novice rigs. It's not good enough to ask, is your AAD on as an AAD check? I always tell them, let me see the AAD before you put it on your back. Again, this I have no doubt would have saved a life last year if it had been done. Leadership by example. We kind of talked about this a little bit already, but students and novices learn risk tolerance from you. If you're breaking the rules and you're a hooligan, that's going to be, what's expected and what's normal. It'll become the new normal thing to do. And then it kind of, trickles down from there. If you don't take the rule seriously, neither will they. Um, and your attitudes are mirrored through your students and novices. And whether you like it or not, it happens. If you have the title of a coach one or a jump master or whatever, you, people automatically look up to you, and your actions will reflect in their own actions and their own skydives. So there's really around the drop zone, there's no taking off your coach hat and going and doing a zoo dive. It's you are a coach and you should be uh, you know, acting in accordance with that rating. All right, let's talk about everyone's favorite rules and policies. Um, I know there's a lot of perspectives that some of the rules are too harsh, some of the rules are too relaxed. Uh, Usually people complain that the rules are too strict, but the rules are there for a reason. And keep in mind, we're pretty unique in Canada that we are completely self-regulated. The government does not legislate skydiving really. So we're self-regulated. And because we do such a good job of doing that, the government stays out of our business. Uh, but what erodes that is not following the rules. Like we do a lot of things as to prevent us going down that slippery slope. Um, but when people start getting hurt and things come up in a coroner's report or whatever, that's when we start getting told to do things and getting told to do things by people who don't skydive can be challenging, and the government complicates everything. So um, the rules exist to precisely keep everyone safe and to keep the government off of the backs of skydiving. Like the whole rigging thing in Canada, where there's rigging currency, that was brought in, I believe, as a part of a coroner's report. So often these rules we have to do to stay on top of this sort of thing to prevent us from going down a slippery slope. Um, BSRs and TRs, so basic safety rules and technical recommendations, they're all in the PIM 1. These, of course, are hard and fast rules that everybody must follow. Uh, for lack of better words, there is no difference practically for a BSR and a TR. They're all rules that you have to follow, that they're non-negotiable unless you have a waiver in writing from CSPA. And it's a process to get one. And there's not too many of them out there. Um, That said, there's also just the general procedures in your manuals, and this actually came up during a lawsuit some time ago, where the PFFI manual was picked apart. And why didn't you follow this? Why didn't you follow that? Right. So if it's in writing, you can pretty much guarantee that someone's going to rely on it if if things go to crap and something bad happens. So it's important for you to be familiar with all that content and stay on top of it. If you don't follow them, you're opening yourself up a whole can of worms for liability. That should be no surprise. But if if you've ever seen those insurance horror stories, they look for exactly this. They look for things that aren't being followed to absolve them from covering off your insurance. So if a BSR isn't followed, you're not going to get covered for your insurance. So keep that in mind that you could be opening yourself up to a giant lawsuit if things go south. We all know that there's wins, there's clearances, etc. It's on you to be familiar with those because there's sometimes situations where um, you're pushed to go past the win limits, but they're there for a reason. It's for you to recognize that. I'm not speaking about any specific drop zone, but manifest. If they're paying attention to manifesting, they're not necessarily paying attention to wins. So it's important for you to do your own recognition and provide that type of information back. At the end of the day, you are not allowed to jump in wins that exceed your win limits that's specified in the PIM one. Same goes for clearances. The clearances can be small or big, but I would argue that most people don't know what the clearances are. So be familiar with those things. If something happens and you've sent someone off into a bad situation, then you're going to be on the hook for it. It's all about CYA. You don't want to be, we have one of the best insurance coverages for liability insurance through CSPA in the world. Through any other you know with every other organization in consideration. Uh, but you won't get covered if you're breaking the rules, so it's important to follow them. Um, I don't even know what I put down there, but EPs and FS endorsements. Oh yeah, make sure that we're following the same standard. I'm going to talk a little bit about this in the update portion of my presentation, but uh, the stuff is posted online, and what I'm finding a lot or frequently, I would say, is that the information exists, and the policies are there, the resources are there, but people do not follow them for whatever reason. And that could be because they just don't bother to check, or it could be other reasons, right? And it's important that if there are other reasons that we know about them so we can address it. Something I do recognize is that there tends to be a lot of stuff in different places. So I am really trying to consolidate information and make it a little bit less fragmented through the CSPA world side of things. But there should be no reason that if you're going to do an FS endorsement, that you don't open up the FS endorsement page on the website and take 30 seconds to review it. By doing that, we're all following the same standard. We're all conveying the same information, and there should be no confusion. Like I said earlier, people have unfortunately died by not following or being familiar with the rules. That's my spiel the about the safety side of things. Is there any questions or comments or anything that anybody would like to point out?
And Dustin, I will take a minute when you're done presenting I'll share my screen regarding some of the access to the resources you were talking about on CSPA. So I'll do that once you're done your presentation.
Okay, cool.
I don't see any hands for questions though, so you must be doing a really great job.
All right, we'll keep on keeping on. Or I'm really boring. Sorry, it's hard to me to be super excited about this stuff. I deal with this stuff probably 20 hours a week, so I just read it all day, every day. But it can be fun. So I'm going to talk a little bit about CSPA updates as it pertains to the coaching working committee. There's some bigger CSPA picture stuff that I'm not going to really cover, but um, as everyone may or may not know, the CSPA AGMs are open to all the registered participants, so anybody can watch it. All the minutes for all these things are posted online. So really the information's out there if you want to understand things or get a bigger picture. But I'll just touch on what's the coaching working committee. So I'm the chair of the coaching working committee for CSPA. There's, oh God, 6 people on it. Um, we we're all, experienced coaches, instructors, learning facilitators, and ultimately we're responsible for the instructional and coaching programs. So we're the committee that everybody loves to hate and hates to love. But yeah, we do all the manuals for coach one, coach two, and all that stuff. And we do the LF training program. So all those resources are within our purview. Um, we are responsible for the issue and maintenance of coach and instructor ratings also, and relevant sections of the PIMS, particularly the PIM 2A and 2B, and hopefully never again the 2C once we get rid of it. Uh, But with that said, oh yeah, and we deal with risk management as it pertains to coaches and instructors. We're all volunteers. Um, we all really rely on everybody to chip in and participate. So, if you have any ideas or suggestions or projects, or we are so completely open to it. But you have to be willing to put in the legwork. Um, like there was a recent proposal for the Coach 3 wingsuit program, but people don't appear to want to put in the work for it. So unfortunately, we have to focus our limited volunteer resources in other areas. So if you want to help out with things and you have a project, reach out to me because we can and will make it happen, no problem. We also deal with a lot of one-offs. This is something that I don't think is broadly known, is that one-off situations are a common occurrence, and it's not necessarily on the coach or instructor to try to work through it. If you have a unique situation and you want, I don't know, special permission for something or anything like that, reach out. We're not here to gatekeep. Uh, the COP rules and requirements and all that stuff are there because it was in a not I say we as in I inherited this committee, but we collectively as through the years have determined that most people should be able to accomplish these tasks and goals. Um, we're confronted a lot with situations where we're suggested to relax a rule because they heard of this guy one time struggling to get this. Um, but those situations can happen and you can get approved to proceed with it. It's just a matter of reaching out, and it's better to have it back than to just take it on yourself as a coach instructor and sign something off, right? So we are very, very open to communicating and working through those situations. So don't be afraid to reach out when any of those situations come up. All right, the updates for within about the last year. The won't really affect too many people or anybody right now, I don't think. But effective April 1st, there's now a new Making Ethical Decisions program. MED has been taken out of the Coach One course in its current form, and as the course is now centralized online on the coach.ca website. So candidates won't receive the MED full module during their Coach One course anymore, um, aside from a couple short mini lecture on it. The other thing is, I think this affects multiple ratings, but learning styles has changed. So I'm not sure if everyone remembers, but the way things were taught was like the visual, auditory, kinesthetic learners. Apparently, that's no longer science-based. The Coaching Association of Canada doesn't recognize that anymore. So we've been instructed to remove it out of all our material. So you won't see that reflected in your manuals anymore. Uh, if there, if we've missed something, please reach out, because remember, we're all volunteers and sometimes things can get missed, and we do our best to put stuff out as soon as it happens, but sometimes things don't go as smoothly as we like it. Um, this will probably blow your minds, but the ACOP, the maneuver series, we had to update the word controlled in it because somebody was doing these crap maneuver series that didn't really even resemble a maneuver series. And the coach's argument is that it doesn't say that the maneuver series has to be controlled. So now it says it has to be a controlled maneuver series, believe it or not. Um, so the other thing that I did notice in having this ridiculous discussion is that it actually isn't clearly defined. There's no clearly defined evaluation criteria in the Coach One manual. Now, this has never been a problem in history, as far as I know, because most people have common sense. But stay tuned for a small update within the Coach One manual. It's going to have more objective criteria in it. EPs, so actually, I'm not even sure if this is out yet, but let's go find out. CSPA, emergency, can't spell. This will be particularly relevant for the SSEs, but the emergency procedures review A and screen sharing has stopped. Uh-oh. Let's try this again. Emergency procedures review. These have been updated online. Took it quite a while to go through it, but it's there. It's kind of expanded. Before it was more broad concepts like talk about canopy stuff. For now, it's a little bit more specific. It gives you a little bit more information to work with when you're providing these reviews. So both the EP review A and B have been updated. Oh, apparently that one's not out yet. It's probably waiting for translation before we roll that one out. Oh no, that's C. Hang on. Okay, no, it is updated. So it follows the skills grid. So a little bit more information there. Make sure you follow what's available. What else? EPs 2A. Oh yeah, 2A and Group FS. So we've also updated the 2A and Group FS. there was a situation that I became aware of in which my takeaway was that the training objectives and the criteria was not clear enough, despite having it pretty well laid out online. But now have been expanded. It's a much more of a robust, clear training objectives and jump requirements. Of course, the drop zones can and do develop their own programs, but that gives some more objective skills that need to be accomplished. So there should be no doubt to anybody delivering a 2A or a Group FS endorsement of what's required. Secondly, we've now also added in technical knowledge requirements, so questions to ask and converse about with your novices. And the endorsement standard, which clearly lays out what needs to be accomplished to be endorsed for the FS endorsement. Also, the group FS endorsement has been updated in the same format, so much clearer. Again, there's your technical knowledge for you to discuss with your candidates as well. Currency recommendations. So we touched on that a little bit already. Let's see, CSPA. So in addition to, like, this is the currency page on the CSPA website. So that document that I was referring to earlier is available here, the recommended unusual situations or the suggested unusual situations. In addition, we all are familiar, hopefully, with the coach and instructor form. The new thing that has happened this year is that you are required to review the unusual situations sections of your respective manuals. So Coach 2 Coach 2's have to read the unusual situations for the Coach 2 manual and so on and so forth. It's not, there was some discussion if this was too much for the coaches to read, but like they're usually like 1 or 2 pages at most per rating. So I mean, I think we counted it to be like 7 pages to review a year, which I don't see how that could be a possible issue. But the only real change with that is you have to initial here on the rating revalidation form stating that you have reviewed the unusual situations of the respective ratings. So be aware of that, because if this isn't initial, it'll probably get rejected. So the jump master minimum jump numbers were increased this year. So it's now a prerequisite to have 200 skydives before participating in a jump master course. Now this resulted from the coach and instructor survey that went out a year and a half or 2 years ago. So that this came from feedback from the coaches and instructors, as well as a drop zone survey. So we sent a survey to the member drop zones for feedback also, and everything highly pointed to increasing the jump master minimum jump numbers. So it's now 200. DCOP wingsuit. Okay, so we have now added a option, and this took a crazy amount of time, but FPA DCOP. There is now hopefully it's been published. Yeah, there's now a option for your DCOP to do a wingsuit jump for free fall proficiency. So obviously, with our sport evolving, wingsuiting becoming a bigger discipline, we felt it was appropriate to add in this as an option for the wingsuiters. This was kind of a group effort. We consulted some experienced wingsuiters. We consulted some people at nationals, the judges, and this was determined to be a workable solution at the level of a DCOP holder. which DTIP is considered an expert rating. If you're reviewing this and you don't think it's right, I'm not a wingsuiter, but certainly provide your feedback on that one because we're totally open to changes as needed. The other thing is, and we'll see if it's been released yet. Yay. So there's now there are the application forms, there's an English one and there's a French one. So you don't have to, there's not going to be a dual one anymore. But more importantly, and this was feedback from a couple people and just because of my own annoyance, we've placed the signing authorities on the actual application forms. Uh, this I find a lot of novices will use this form to track their progress, and it really helps lay out who can sign off on what. So it's all in one spot. It should be very clear who can sign what and do what. So uh, I am happy about that change. The other thing that's been updated, and I'm not sure if I think it's out. And if it's not out, it should be out very soon. In the SSE manual, the night and water endorsements were kind of terrible. They weren't bad, they were just really small. There wasn't really a lot of standardized information for the SSE to work with to deliver a night and water endorsement. So that's been updated. I think it's out, but if not, it should be out very soon. There's like some technical knowledge questions and things like that. So be sure to review that section of the SSE manual when you're going to deliver a night and water endorsement, or if you're just curious about it, it's all published online and take a read over it. Looking ahead, so uh, I, like I said, inherited the coaching working committee about well, officially about a year ago, and kind of went at it with a fresh set of eyes. I never really planned on inheriting the committee, but here we are. So there's part of what I did and what I've been doing is looking at some long-term planning. We've been communicating a lot more with stakeholders, the board, coaches and instructors, everybody who I can get information from. Because well, like I said, I do recognize that the experience comes from all you guys. It's not, I'm not reinventing the wheel. Yes, I'm a relatively experienced instructor, but I well recognize that I'm not the expert in all things, and there's people out there with far more experience than me that has far more information. So you know, be part of the solution. But that said, there's some big kind of shifts in thinking in CSPA, a lot of new blood throughout. So my kind of broad goal is to digitize things where possible. We are limited with finances. Unfortunately, we're not a rich organization, but I would love to have everything signed off online and e-learning and whatnot, but we are limited financially and by uh, just resources of people who volunteer. But I would like to find ways to digitize things where we can, and that includes e-learning. We're currently working with the CAC. There's discussions on how we can utilize their e-learning platform. So basically, putting parts of the Coach One and Coach Two course on the e-learning platform for from the CAC. So maybe that will make courses more efficient in the future. Like I said, open communications. I'm probably on 5 or 6 calls a week with different drop zones or coaches or instructors. As far as I know, that is something that wasn't happening before, which um, people are volunteers, so you can't really expect them to dedicate all that time. But it's something that I'm really focusing on as a committee chair, but also if you bring an idea forward, I will assign somebody to that and they'll be the liaison. We'll work with you to get it done. So the dialogue's there, ideas, thoughts, suggestions, weird exam questions. There, I really hate seeing, well, this people always get the question wrong because it's a stupid question. Well, then tell us. It's really easy to fix these things. We just need to know about it. So yeah, reach out anytime, absolutely anytime. And I'm about figuring out solutions, not complaining about problems. So I'd like to go through the manuals. This is kind of a big project. Um, I want all the manuals to be standardized in the look and the feel and the graphics. I also want to trim the fat. There is a lot of information in those manuals that I personally don't think is necessary to be in there. Um, that said, it's not a Dustin committee. It's a group committee, so I'm not the decision maker on some of the stuff. And there's certainly um, thoughts uh, where I get overridden. Usually we agree on most things, but it's not necessarily it is not up to me. It's up to collectively for approval for any of these changes. But I welcome suggestions and feedback. Something that we want to do more is survey for changes from everybody, but including coaches and instructors. We are sort of working on a C3 wingsuit. We're hoping on expand. Well, we were looking at expanding that and developing a CSPA first flight course. It's in the works, but the four people who said they wanted to get this going have kind of stopped responding to emails, so it's becoming a low priority for us right now. But who knows what the future will hold with that.
And Dustin, it looks like there was a comment from somebody in here, and I've directed them to just reach out to you directly regarding the wingsuit stuff. So, and just so you know, your screen isn't sharing because I had stopped it, but if you want to restart it, you can.
Oh,
So,
you can't see
yeah.
my screen?
Well, you were still sitting on the application form. So if you're back to your slideshow, you need to reshare your
Oh,
slideshow.
my bad.
No, you're all good. There you go. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, something we want to look at also is the COP, just to review all the COPs, because I think a lot of a lot of what exists now is a bunch of patchwork and band-aids. Somebody has a problem, they update this thing a little bit to make it work for them, and then we're left with basically what we have right now, which is you can do this, but except for this, or if you're this type of if you have a coach rating, then this, which I think is confusing. So I'd like to go at this with just a fresh set of eyes and see where we can make things simpler and smoother. Coach and instructor recognition. So this is something that's actually in the CWC mandate, and I kind of forgotten about it till I actually reviewed it earlier today. So uh, if you have want to recognize a coach or an instructor, please reach out. We'll do something up for them. We'll get them a CWC certificate, but certainly make it a habit of recognizing people because it really reinforces um, good, safe behavior and that sort of thing. So we tend to put a lot of attention into situations that are bad or someone gets hurt, but we don't really put a lot of attention into good, solid, quality coaching and instructing. So reach out if you have any nominations for that. So, call to action for you guys. Stay up to date. There's a lot of information coming out. Uh, CSPA is pumping out documents and references like probably in an unprecedented level that has ever been seen before. Lots of good information on there. So stay up to date with the current standards, particularly stay up to date with your ratings. Stay in touch with CSPA, whether that's the CWC or any questions to the office or the other committees. If you send an email to the office, they'll direct it to the appropriate person and get an answer for you. No problem there. So don't feel like you're ruffling any feathers or making extra work. Um, it's what we volunteer for. So reach out. Uh, So be the force to lead change. Any thoughts, suggestions, ideas, anything like that? Um, let's make it happen. If it's a good idea, I will actually, even if it's a bad idea, I'll still bring it to the committee. I really try to not influence the committee. If you come to me with an idea that I don't necessarily agree with, uh, I present it without any comment, the way you've written it. So just because I don't necessarily agree with you doesn't mean it's a bad idea. So, but I really want to encourage everybody to reach out and make suggestions where appropriate. Pre-skydiving is a profession. It's a serious business. Yes, we have fun, but what you do as a coach and instructor can lead to very good outcomes and sometimes to bad outcomes. So recognize your role in the system. There's always lots of opportunities to volunteer, get involved. There's lots of committees. Committees are always looking for people with specialized skills and that sort of thing. Uh, typically what happened in the past is you get, how I became part of the CWC is I annoyed the CWC so much with my wrong answers and misworded questions that they eventually brought me on as a CWC member to fix my own stuff. But there's opportunities for you to just put up your hand and say, "Hey, here's my skills. How can I help?" Because don't just rely on getting headhunted. There's lots of talents and skill sets that we could utilize or someone could utilize in CSPA. It's on you to identify the next generation of coaches, instructors, and LFs. It's not I know coach instructor courses are more widely available than learning facilitators, but the LF program, something that we changed last year, is that it's no longer I it's no longer somebody knows somebody and recommends them. There's a open nomination process available on the CSPA website. There's a nomination form, and anybody's welcome to fill one out or for themselves or recommend somebody else. That said, LF seminars are limited, and we have to really be cognizant of distribution of LFs throughout the country, where we don't want to saturate one area while leaving other areas vacant. But if you're interested, uh, nominate somebody and we'll add it to the list. And when seminars happen, we'll select from there. And yeah, it could be an opportunity to become a learning facilitator. And reach out during unique situations. So I mentioned earlier that sometimes we encounter unique situations, or um, somebody can't physically do a skill because of this. No problem. Let's make it work and whatnot. We're not rigid. We're here to get people to succeed. So reach out if you're ever encountering something strange or weird, or if you feel that you need to get like special permission for something. We'll get back to you right away. That said, that's all I have for my presentation. Wow, it took longer than I thought. Full hour of me rambling on. I'd like to open the floor. This will be our skydiving evening campfire. where we can shoot the breeze. If there's any questions, thoughts, suggestions, anything like that, feel free to chime in.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dustin. I am going to stop sharing your screen. And before I get into just add some things onto what Dustin was talking about, is there any questions specifically to anything that Dustin has said before we totally open the floor? All right. I just wanted to jump in on a couple things that Dustin did talk about, and it's more to show you where things can be found. I love that Dustin was engaging on the website. Our website isn't pretty, but it's actually very functional. And I have done an analysis of not only our website, but USPA, APF, British Skydiving, and really ours isn't horribly bad. We at least have everything on there. So if I could just take a minute here, I am going to open up. So hopefully, Dustin, can you give me a thumbs up? Can you see my screen, my website? Perfect. Awesome. So one of the things Dustin was talking about was the addition of a safety resource page for you guys. This is something that was actually added, I think, about a year and a half ago through some areas of analysis that we realized we needed to have more education out there. So you can see across the top, it says safety and educational resources. And all here are a whole bunch of links to different areas. We recently added the coaches and instructors. Dustin and I were chatting. We're like, oh, this is perfect. So you can look in here. This is, of course, building as we go. But he talked about the review of unusual situations is in there. There's quick links to some of the endorsements that we know and briefings that we know we use quite often. If you're with some of your skydivers, novice jumpers, this is a great section here. People who are wanting to get into movement, we've got the movement guide there, the new briefing for canopy formation or crew. We even have stuff for riggers. And then there's kind of an everyone tab. This everyone is, some really important stuff that we look at for ethics. We did an article here, and these are just really good articles that are sometimes going to be in Canberra, or we know they're just important enough to put on the website before they might reach Canberra. So definitely good articles there. And I just want to go back to the skydivers one. We talked about equipment checks. These are 3 videos that are phenomenal. And so if you haven't watched them, I definitely get you guys to go watch them and share with your novices some of these resources as well for them to go find. So then I just want to go into the safety side of things. Obviously, I think everyone knows that AIM reports are very near and dear to my heart. We need to educate this from the top down. So as much as drop zone owners, for example, at my drop zone, you guys all know, something happens, be it something that's significant or not, or what you might seem, if it's a near miss, you might not seem to be, important enough for an AIM report. They all are. The AIM reports now, we have actually broken out. They're much easier to use. So if it was a tandem, if you're dealing with a student, if it's equipment specific, experience, these are the different things here. And the nice thing is they're all just clean formats and a lot easier to use. So in the event of a malfunction, even though you land safely at the drop zone, get that AIM report. We use these to look at more analysis, to work with manufacturers, and all of that kind of stuff as well. So if you have questions about AIM reports, filling them out, anything, feel free to reach out to me directly. For those of you who don't know, I do work as the analyst. So when redacted stuff comes my way, I analyze it all, which brings me to this next section. Especially as coaches and instructors, you guys hopefully are staying on top of some of the trends we might be seeing. So under occurrence and risk mitigation reporting, and this is our AIM, these are the reports. So last year, we have a complete summary analysis. I hope you guys still see all of this, but this is like a full report of 2025. So for those of you who are statistic nerds like myself, or just want a more in-depth understanding, this is a huge breakdown of all the AIM reports from last year. And then this one here is specific to each incident. So we actually try to post this as monthly as possible, but you can see here, if you're looking at, student accidents, you can go in here, and this actually is each AIM report, redacted information, but it'll give you guys an idea of everything. And one of the changes that kind of took place, sorry, I'll go back to that, is that we did recognize, learning from fatalities and those kind of things is very important. So there was a fatality in Canada last year. And so there is a full analysis of that as well on the factual information, with lots of recommendations there as well. These are really important things for you, hopefully you guys, to look at, because it will identify who it actually impacts as well. If you see here, action by at the end, it says jumper coaches, instructors, DZSOs, packers, riggers. So there's good recommendations. CSPA provides high level. It shows you where in the PIMS you can find stuff based on that. So whereas the DZO recommendations hopefully are a little bit more of a root cause analysis. So if you're ever helping in that area. So that was that. And the other big thing, if you are hosting a Coach 1 course or Coach 2 course, or one's happening at your drop zone, right on the main site, we have what's called an event section. The calendar needs work, but it is a start. So for example, we have a Jump Master course happening here. We've got Danny Grant's putting it on. It's in Salmon Arm. So you can actually send this information. Not only do we do a post on the information on our calendar through the LTAG committee, we're actually doing a lot of social media as well. If you haven't been to our Facebook CSPA, if you're not a member or if you're not liking CSPA's Facebook page or Instagram, please do. And hopefully you're sharing the information that you see on there. We're posting a lot of the Compare articles, those kind of things. So have a look at that. And then lastly, can you guys see the SVI Safety Seminar Series YouTube right now on the screen? Dustin, does that look, can you see that?
No, I just see the events page.
Okay, I think I need to reshare that then. So just bear with me. I'm just going to go back. I just have to reshare a different site. And then lastly, there we go. So we started a long time ago, the SVI Safety Seminar Series. This is a YouTube channel. You can see on there was our safety day. You can see Derek chatting on there. But there's also our safety seminars where we've had movement last year, and there's a whole list of them. You can see old ones from instructor courses and stuff like that. But there is skill-specific ones on here. And so just for you guys to know and have resources for that. And let me go back here. All right, I think that was all I wanted to let you guys know from my end. And now I will open the floor. If you guys have any questions, concerns, comments, the floor is yours. One thing to add to Dustin's, again, on our social media, we are trying to educate any kind of updates for PIMS, BSRs. We're trying to update those on social media as well. We recognize that communication, there's a big gap in that. So hopefully you guys are watching some of those things. We're obviously, I'd love to highlight coach instructor recognitions throughout the season and those ideas. But yeah, anything that helps us improve communication across everything is really important to see. I see my malfunction in the report. Yes, you do, Derek. Even though it would be there if we're submitting them. So those are great tools for you guys. And I think Dustin and I both, we're very heavily involved with CSPA, but we can assure you that the tools and resources and everything is there. If you don't know or anything, just reach out to one of us. I'll happily show you guys where to find things, as I know Dustin will as well. And yeah, I mean, if it shows that we have to clean up language in areas, we learn from you guys. I know that I saw many of you guys on the coach instructor roundtables that I've done through LTAD. We want to continue with those. It is about hearing the voices of stakeholders. So I cannot stress enough to support Dustin's message is be involved. And even if it's just using the materials, and commenting on this, huge. Any questions about any of the changes, updates, anything specific to you as a coach you want advice on, instructor? Oh, the other thing is the mentorship program. It is on our CSPA website as well. The mentorship program is fantastic. It's initiative through the Women's Initiative Committee. It's for everyone. Sadly, last year I had 2 mentees that I could not pair up with mentors because I just didn't have the right fits for that. As coaches and instructors, please sign up. Ask me questions about the mentorship program. I promise you that, you might get paired with one person. You might get paired with nobody. And, it just depends what comes in. But I definitely encourage you guys to do that. It's a pretty awesome structured program now with a lot of flexibility for you guys. If you're a new coach or a new instructor and you want some mentorship from a more experienced coach or instructor or an LF, you can apply as a mentee. It's meant for all of you guys to get mentorship. We recognize that continued education is a gap that we need to target. And the mentorship program is to help us fill that gap. So, yeah. And everybody's so quiet and chill.
Come on, somebody has
Gerardo. Is there a way to list the coaches that are in the DZ for any students or novices to know who to reach out to? It's a great question. And that is probably very drop zone specific. I will, in a specific day. Yeah. So this is actually something as a drop zone owner we've struggled with. Dustin and I have talked about this so many different times about like, how do you do this? I know some drop zones do a phenomenal job at it. We need to do better at Skydive Vancouver Island. And we've talked about like little charts and things. So I will take this one away. Usually because I micromanage everything, most jumpers just come to me and say, hey, I need a coach. But yeah, it's a great idea. And if you're at a drop zone who doesn't do that or does do that and have a good best practice, let me know. But it is a good idea. And don't be afraid as instructors and coaches, talk to your DZOs. We have a million things to manage. And so sometimes we just rely on the coach instructor stuff going smoothly without realizing that you guys have ideas that can be brought specifically to improving the drop zone itself. Don't be shy. Good question though, Gerardo. Doesn't the Fun Jumper app accommodate this? Oh, you know what? Good question. Gord is the one that loves the Fun Jumper app. For those of you who don't know it, I don't know if Gord's even able to chat, but Dustin, do you use the Fun Jumper app lots?
I'm loading it up now. I mean, it's one of those things that it's neat, but I don't know if it's practical to like. I mean, my vision to what Gerardo is saying is to have all the coaches and instructors, their name, their picture with the ratings. You come into the drop zone today, you take it and you put it on the board, the magnetic board, here today. And when you leave, you put it on the off board. So everybody, I mean, but the Fun Jumper app is cool and all.
I don't think it shows coach ratings. It only shows what type of discipline you want to do.
Oh yeah, and Griffin says the same. Griffin actually uses the Fun Jumper app, and he has never seen a list of ratings.
But I do have the contact information for the Fun Jumper developer, and I could definitely recommend that. So maybe that's something we could add to it, and maybe that might be a good way of doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not actually a bad idea. Sure.
Yeah. Sounds like I'll task Gord to that because, on top of the other things he has to do. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Fun Jumper app, go find it. It's pretty freaking awesome. So Skydive Vancouver's on it. Lots of drop zones are on it. It's really cool.
Well, it
So
says Skydive Vancouver Island. The jumping conditions today are excellent and a predicted 6 to 13 jumps. So that's great.
oh, I love it. If there's no more questions from the floor, you guys are just a quiet bunch. I just love it. You guys are great. The only other thing that I will add to this is that, and only because I'm intimate with the project, just so you know, movement, so tracking an angle, is finally now recognized within the technical recommendations in PIM 1. And just so you know, you have to have a BCOP before participating in any kind of tracking or movement or angle flying is basically what it is. That is a PIM 1. The reference guide can go into lots more detail about recommendations on group sizes, how to progress, those kind of things. And we're trying really hard to separate the language between break-off tracking and tracking. I get lots of jumpers that come to manifest saying, oh, I'm going on a tracking jump. I'm like, no, you are not. You have 15 skydives. They might be on, obviously trying a break-off track, but I really am hoping you guys can stress that, tracking, BCOP, and higher is the minimum requirement for that. Same with, and I just don't know, canopy formation, bumping end cells, BCOP and higher, and hopefully everyone's getting their briefings. The new briefing guide is great. It's on the website. And it is also BCOP and higher. So don't be out there bumping end cells with people that have their A license or ACOPs. So those are just some things like just to be mindful when Dustin talks about updates. You guys should be on top of any of those PIM changes. Cool. Any questions from the floor? So I love this. This is so good. I have one more thing to share just because that's what happens. Where's my picture disappeared? Where's my picture? Oh, that's really weird. Oh, maybe I share this. Can you guys see that? Oh, hold on.
I see a black screen.
You see a black screen. So let me stop sharing that. Let me try sharing. Oh, there we go. All right. So now you guys should see the safety seminar series coming up. Yes, Dustin, do you see that? I hope so. All right. So Dustin, thank you so much on behalf of Gord and I for presenting today for our coaches and instructors. For those of you, we still have another couple more weeks of our safety seminars left. Next Tuesday, again, I think it's 5 o'clock start time, is for riggers and packers. And so it doesn't have to just be CSPA riggers, any riggers. And when I say packers, doesn't mean you're like just packers at the drop zone. For those of you that actually pack your own parachutes, this is a great opportunity. We have Jared Cole he's the chair of the Technical and Safety Committee. He will be presenting on April 14th for that. And then to wrap it all up, our very own Derek Smith will be giving a safety seminar on the foundations of Group FS. And in fact, he's actually talking about some of the other disciplines in there as well. Him and I have been chatting. It looks like it's going to be an amazing presentation. And so those are the upcoming seminars from that. And I'm just going to go back. Oh, Dustin's got his Oilers jersey on. And I'm going to stop the recording right now. Dustin, again, thank you to all of those of you that participated. I appreciate you attending very much so. And of course, the recording of this will be available online for future reference as well. Thanks.